Just a short while back, the Tory leader cast his vote in London. And for the millions of British voters, this is an election which will decide the outcome on various issues. The next Prime Minister is going to be either Boris Johnson, who is focused on getting Brexit done, whatever the consequences may be, or Jeremy Corbyn, with a Labour-led government, will try to remodel the society with a program of nationalisation and public spending. His mantra has been, it's time for real change. And a number of issues that have dominated the electoral discourse, and the voters will be sealing the fate of these two main contenders. Britons have now been confronted with two drastically different visions for what lies ahead and must decide between these two leaders for the country's future. Candidates have been taking to the polling centres since early hours of the morning. Let's get in further details now from our correspondent Lucy Hof, who's now joining us live from London for more on that. Lucy, you've been speaking to voters today and over the last few days. Give us a better sense of the issues that have been on their minds. And this is an election that, of course, is a result of Brexit, but is about more issues than just Brexit.
Absolutely. I think Boris Johnson, when he called this election in October a snap poll, a short-term campaign, just 5 weeks, Boris Johnson was hoping that this would be a single-issue campaign at which Brexit would be at the centre. He was hoping to heal the divisions and bring an end to the political paralysis that has consumed Britain in the last 3.5 years since that referendum on our EU membership back in 2016. But the campaign has been about far more than that. The NHS, the National Health Service, has been a key part of the campaign, particularly in the last few days. The publication of a photograph of a 4-year-old boy with pneumonia sleeping on the floor of a hospital. That photo outraged the nation and formed a huge part of the discussion in the last few days. But the key issue really is Brexit. This election will decide the future of Britain and its position on the world stage. We have Boris Johnson's deal, which he'll be hoping to get through should he win his majority tomorrow. He's then hoping to take us out of the EU on January the 31st, and he will then be negotiating a new trade agreement with Brussels for all of next year, hoping to get that done by the summer. But if in the event of a hung parliament with no clear winner, Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, the opposition leader, will be looking to other smaller parties to form a coalition. Most of those parties are pro a second referendum, so it could be that Brexit doesn't happen at all. So huge amounts to play for and a critical election in Britain's future.
And speaking specifically about Brexit and the stance of the several parties in the fray, the somewhat confusing stance of Jeremy Corbyn regarding Brexit and that of holding a second referendum, that has been a major concern, and that has also been talked about as one major issue that might go against the Labour Party.
Yes, it's proving a difficult issue for Jeremy Corbyn on the doorstep. His position, his party's position, is that they would negotiate a new deal with Brussels, with the European Union within 3 months. That would then be put to a second referendum, which would be decisive and binding. If Britain at that point voted to leave on the terms of this new deal, we would do so. But if we voted to remain, to revoke Article 50, the mechanism that gets us out of the European Union, then that would stay. But that message isn't proving hugely persuasive with voters. The Liberal Democrats have campaigned on a clear Stop Brexit message. The Conservative Party's slogan is Get Brexit Done, which has been a constant refrain throughout this campaign. And what we're seeing that's incredibly interesting is what's known as the Red Wall here in the UK, a series of seats in the north of England and in the Midlands that have voted Labour through the decades, some as long as 100 years. They've been red seats, Labour seats. But those voters, many of those Leave voters, those are constituencies that voted heavily to leave the European Union. They are now looking to the Conservative Party, that key message. And Boris Johnson has made it his aim, the centre of his campaign is wooing those voters. That key message, he's been trying to take voters both from Labour and from the Brexit Party, the small, influential party that it thinks is the only party to be trusted with our European exit. But Boris Johnson does seem to have succeeded. The Brexit Party was on 30% at the start of this campaign. They are now down to 3%. Boris Johnson still sailing high in the polls, as he has done throughout this campaign, but the polls are tightening, and that gap is between 9 and 12% now. So it could be that we are looking at a hung parliament tomorrow.